Let me briefly introduce myself and my spouse. My name is James, and I am 46 years old. My wife, Emma, is 43. We have been, after 22 years of marriage, we have a daughter named Grace who is currently in her final semester of college. Grace has always been, I'm going to graduate with a degree in environmental science from the University of Our Lives, Grace. I was up on a farm in a tiny Iowan town, and I'm currently pursuing a teaching degree. I put a lot of effort into the farm and still found time to participate in sporting events and socialize with girls after high school. I then attended college to further my education. Since my parents weren't wealthy, I made the decision that I wanted to teach agriculture in high school. In order to make up for what they were unable to provide, my parents sold the farm and moved into a small house in the city. On their way home after my graduation, parents received a respectable amount for the farm, which served as their retirement income. Were both killed in an automobile accident after a blowout caused a near rollover. Since I was the only child, I inherited the money from. I was quite taken aback when I learned that their farm had sold for about $425,000. Discovered how expensive it was, and the following few months were difficult for me. I missed my parents' company. It was really challenging to lose both of them at the same time, but I overcame my sadness and went on in May when I was hired. I accepted the chance to teach farm science in a high school south of Dallas because I was really interested in. This seemed like a fantastic opportunity to teach, so I also chose to use my inheritance to purchase this tiny 35.5. I located an acre farm outside of town, and I constructed a lovely, contemporary log cabin, a horse barn, and a training ring for the horses. In addition to investing in some cattle, I would purchase a wife, but it would be pleasant to have someone with whom I could spend my life and fall in love. I also want children, and that was around a month after. When school started, I met Emma, and my mentor teacher thought we may click, so she set up a date. That she arranged a date for us. Although I wasn't too sure at first, I thought I might as well try it. I hadn't gone on a date in a long time because of everything going on, so when she answered the door, I was astounded. Extremely attractive. I knew I would like this girl immediately. We went to supper together, and then for a few. We had drinks at a bar, chatted, laughed, and I felt completely at ease. We returned to Emma's flat, sat on her balcony, and I asked her why someone so amazing and, despite her beauty, she was single and stated, James, I was going to ask you the same question. You're really attractive, intelligent, and hilarious. Your brown hair and stunning blue eyes make you look really seductive. I've never met someone that I truly wanted to get serious about, Emma, and I blushed. Most of the girls I immediately felt a connection with you, James, but we were too strange or erratic to date. Similar experiences have occurred with the majority of the men I've dated. They've either been inappropriate or uncommitted to. Getting to know me better before tonight, I had never dated a man I wanted to commit to, so I turned to. She glanced at me, and we had a gentle, tender kiss that wasn't a messy tongue-in-mouth exchange. After a few minutes of kissing, I said, Emma, I want to see you again. We don't have to do anything right away, but James, you're the sweetest. I'd like to see where this goes and get to know you better before we move forward. Most guys would already be vying for my pants, but you were the most gentlemanly man I've ever met. I chuckled and added that I would be lying if I claimed that notion had never occurred to me. You are so gorgeous and seductive. But even though we've just recently met, I respect you a lot, and I want to build a relationship with you rather than a one-sided one. Nightstand. She leaned in to give me another kiss before saying, James, you're unique, and I can't wait to get to know you better. Emma came from a low-income family that was unable to pay for her to attend college, so she opted to attend She attended a trade school to receive administrative secretarial training, and she has been employed by a prosperous small business in. After living in Dallas for a few years, we became quite close over the next several months and fell in love approximately 5 weeks later. On our first date, we had a passionate encounter in the front seat of my truck where we made love. We had just been. I'm happy we made it to the vehicle, where we got in and began kissing, even though the movie included a lot of sex scenes. Take a long time to begin and finish, and I'm fairly certain that the truck's windows were fogged up. At the same moment, Emma was great. She was so amazing. We both had a mind and experienced an amazing climax. We drove to my house, where she screamed loudly and passionately, and we spent the rest of the night making. We both fell passionately in love that night, and it was such a passionate night. Became closer over the course of the following few months, and we were rarely apart once she moved in with me in February. We got married on May 15th, and a little more than a year later, we had Grace. The next 22 years were wonderful, and our family was content. Although we weren't wealthy, I thought we had a decent life. Emma and I had a wonderful sexual life together. None of us ever lost our desire, and I'll admit that over the last 6 or things slowed down a little after 7 months, yet the passion seemed to remain. Or was it because of the circumstance about 8 months ago, 22 years later, Emma accepted a new position as an executive. Her new employer, Thomas Evans, who owned a manufacturing company, was the secretary to the CEO and owner of Pine Crest Enterprises. He was an extremely wealthy man who served as the CEO of Pine Crest Enterprises, a U.S. government contractor that created so I suppose his business was doing really well. He was the only owner of the business, and Emma loved her new position and kept bringing up her employer Thomas, which made me a little envious until I saw him. He was 60 years old. When I asked, he said that I looked like a Greek god because I was overweight and balding. She often told me how much she loved me, and when she told me about it, she laughed and said that no one could ever be like you, baby. I assumed there was nothing to be concerned about because of the enormous tool inside her, so I never thought about it again. Before she began accompanying him on business travels, they would be gone for 2 or 3 days at a time. I questioned her about the excursions, and she simply chuckled, "James, it's a requirement of my work. I have a hotel room of my own, and we keep rather busy." I was still a little worried about taking care of business, but she offered me no cause to question hers, so I kept it to myself. That brings me back to that fateful Thursday, when I had returned home from school and made a beeline for the barn after a round. Emma arrived an hour later, got out of her car, and began to go to the house. I screamed out, "Hey, I'm almost done here. We will arrive shortly and prepare some steaks for dinner." I had been missing Emma, who had been away for 3 days. She glanced in my direction while on another work trip with her employer, but she just nodded before entering the residence I entered. "You want a beer or a glass of wine?" the kitchen asked, grabbing a beer from the refrigerator. "Glass of wine," she said, "would be pleasant," because she continued to gaze at the floor without turning to face me. I handed her a glass of wine and placed the bottle down next to her. She eventually glanced up at me, and I could sense that something was truly annoying her. So I hugged and kissed her before saying, "Baby, what's wrong? You look." Emma picked up her wine glass and drank it as though something was upsetting her. "Did something happen during your trip?" "Everything at once." Then she filled her glass with more wine and took another drink, but not the entire glass. "James, please calm down and tell me what's bothering you. It can't be that horrible. Let me finish telling you something important before you say anything more, or it will be lost. All right, sweetie, tell me, what's going on?" She finished her wine and spoke some things that I didn't think I would ever hear. "James, please know that you have my undying affection, and that what I am going to say has nothing to do with your bad behavior. You are the most amazing man I have ever encountered, whether you are a father, husband, lover, or friend. Have you ever realized that things weren't going well?" I kept quiet, but I knew that I was likely to happen next. "James, in order to make a difference in my life, I'm going to file for divorce and move out right away. Your worries regarding Thomas and he has fallen deeply in love with me, and we have been having an affair for the last 6 months, and we're getting married. After our divorce is finalized, we'll divide everything equally, but you'll keep the..." She took a minute to let me to take my clothes and personal belongings, leaving the house, farm, and everything else here. Despite my inner rage, I gently said, "Go on," to what she had said. "I'm filing for a divorce due to irreconcilable differences, and it's hurting like hell." I said, "Let's get this done as soon as possible." She stopped giving me an opportunity to talk to Emma in a straightforward and painless manner. "I like Thomas and think he's fascinating. Are you in love with him? I'm sure I'll love him eventually, but I'm not sure whether I'm fulfilling your sexual needs. That is he a greater lover than you? James, I'm glad I can make you happy. He's not even close. You are a wonderful lover, and I always have been pleased by you. So I asked if I had mistreated you and if you were dissatisfied. I am attempting to comprehend the reasons behind your actions and the dissolution of a family union. I'm confused here, Emma James. Thomas gives me incredibly lovely stuff when I'm kind to him. He likes to express how much he loves me by saying that if I were to marry him, my life would be such. I would get anything I wanted, drive a luxury car, tour the world, and enjoy the best life possible. I would also not have to work, clothing, and frequent upscale dining establishments. Thus, this is a financial exchange you wish to make for a man who earns a lot of. Let me tell you, Emma, there's a name for what you're doing that begins with the letter P. James, and I'm not A. I'm really sorry to hurt you like this, but it's something I have to do. I can't, the prostitute stated, breaking down in tears. Emma, you damaged me by declining this opportunity to be a wealthy man's wife. Do you have any? You have no clue how this makes me feel. I've given you everything I've had for 22 years, working as hard as I could. Simply speaking, I have given you my love, compassion, friendship, heart, and soul in addition to monetary possessions. I apologize for not earning enough money to genuinely make you happy, even though I have given you everything I have. Disappointment in your life. I'll go out to the barn while you pack since I need some alone time right now. I could tell she was feeling awful about the entire situation. I suppose she was unaware of the extent of the suffering she was causing everyone. She considered how wealthy she had recently become. I went to the barn and sat on a bale of hay before I lost it, and just sitting there in tears, I'll admit that I never weep. My father used to tell me that men don't cry, and I didn't cry at all. I cried during my parents' burial, but it was the last time I would do so. I wondered what I could have done better and whether it was my fault. When Emma entered the barn and looked at me, she cried, "Oh my God, what have I done, James? You never." "I'm sorry, James. I never meant to hurt you so badly. Have I wounded you that much?" "Let's see, Emma, you come home and suddenly tell me that you're ruining our marriage and severing our family. You've had another man's dick in you for the past 6 months, so you're moving out and getting a divorce. Oh, and all of this was, you claim to still love me even though I didn't earn enough money. Yet it seems like love means nothing to you. James, I have to leave now because Thomas and I are taking an early morning flight to Milan. Morning, we'll be there for a few days, and as soon as I return, I'll start the divorce process so that we can finish it as soon as possible." As soon as possible. I saw that you were rushing. Have you considered what Grace would think when I call her? She will realize tonight that Thomas has committed to purchasing her a brand new Mercedes and settle her college debts. He promised to settle the ones you took out as well. Thank you, but I can settle the debts I took out, and I have a suspicion that Grace might not be as convinced as you are. She gave me a weird look, but said nothing, so you'd better leave now, Emma. I just wanted to let you know that after you're gone, I won't return you. This is not a good idea, so please don't come to me in tears. Oh, and make sure. I could see she was considering taking you shopping in Milan to give your sugar daddy a nice evening. I was a little worried that she may change her mind about what I said, but she said, "Goodbye, James. I love you and I will." I answered, "I love you too, Emma," and she turned to leave. I sat there and murmured, "Miss you," down and sobbed once more before I managed to gather myself. We said, "Okay, James, it's time to move on." I turned and, "Well, ladies, I suppose you were the only females left here. I know I can count on you two," I added, glancing at my 2 horses. "Be faithful." I approached them and gave them both a rub, and they both nodded and nudged me. Walked up to my vacant house and got another beer. A little more than an hour later, Grace called and asked, "Dad, are you?" "All right, I just hung up with Mom." "Has she lost her mind? What in the world is she thinking?" "She's found herself a sugar daddy, and she believes that he's a bit of a tall order because I told her that I couldn't provide her everything she wants in life. She even attempted to persuade me that he would make a fantastic stepfather, telling me that his money would complete her life. I had to laugh thankfully when I informed her that she could put off paying off her student debt and purchasing a new car. When my daughter witnessed what was happening, she didn't take it seriously. I assured her that I would be all right. We spoke or a bit, and she helped me feel better by promising to support me whenever I needed it. After a few beers, I dozed off on the couch, and she also assured me that she would never have anything to do with the sugar daddy. Couch, I had a restless night and kept waking up with terrible dreams, one of which was about going to the mall. She looked up and laughed when she saw Emma giving Thomas a look in the women's dressing room. Continued licking his dick. The amusing thing is that it lasted for around 2 minutes. Ethan, my former college flatmate, called me this morning and said, "Hey Samuel, we've stayed in touch." Ethan works. He is arguably my best buddy in the world and served as my best man at our wedding while working for the FBI's fraud branch. It had been a few months since our last conversation, Ethan. How are you doing? I think you'll be interested in the news I have to share with you, James. See you later. Soon, things were starting to become a little strange, and I wondered how Ethan could possibly know about all of this. I hadn't considered revenge yet, but I sensed it was coming. About half an hour later, Ethan showed there, so I provided. It was a pleasant morning, so I made him a cup of coffee, and we sat outside on my back deck. Ethan commented on how serene and beautiful everything was. Then he said how sorry he was that my marriage was going to end the way it did. I revealed everything to him. Ethan, you sound like you already know about Em and Thomas. James, I shouldn't be telling you this, but as your buddy, I'm going to tell you something private. Feel like I owe it to you as far as anyone is concerned. We never had this chat, and you cannot tell anyone. This seems more serious than a wife divorcing her husband, Ethan. James is involved, and it's also, as part of my official duties, I am working on an investigation into Thomas Evans, whom we believe has been engaged in fraud, and we believe he has defrauded the U.S. government of millions of dollars. Contracts. He will be in serious danger since we have been collecting evidence against him for a number of months. In another couple of, we'll have all the proof we need to prove him in a few months. Wow, Ethan, this is fantastic. I hate that I would give anything. EMR would also benefit from seeing him destroyed. How could she have been so foolish? Ethan is now a person of integrity because Emma, his executive secretary, was foolish enough to leave you for that jerk. Interest in this inquiry. We don't believe Emma is connected to this scam. Although there is no proof that she is aware of his crime, she will be involved when all is resolved. Will be rudely awakened, I continued, because she believes she is getting a very wealthy new spouse and will live a happy ever after learning about Emma's affair with Thomas during our surveillance. I waited until with all the evidence, I was going to tell James that she must have done what she did because she Ted money. Retrieved a sizable packet from his briefcase, handed it to me, and stated that there was ample proof of there. If someone asks you why you didn't receive this from me, I opened the package and said, "Affair, if you want to use it in your divorce, use it." Observed explicit images, emails, and videos that showed the two of them having sex. Dates were also included. And times on everything, I found it difficult to look at and felt like crying again, but I remained calm and thanked. Even though she seemed to be pretending during sex, Ethan's actions were amusing, and I am aware of her behavior. When I made love to her, she never acts like way when she's happy. Another amusing thing was that Thomas actually had a little dick. Ethan informed me that he would be in town for a few more days, but that he had to return to work. However, he believed D-Day was approaching. Ethan, I think we should go out to dinner tomorrow night as a way to thank you for everything you've done. James, that sounds fantastic for me in this mess. My sister Olivia is coming tomorrow. Is it acceptable if she comes? Naturally, it would be all right. I haven't seen her since she was a youngster, and she is currently 35 years old. James. Additionally, I should point out that it's amusing that her divorce appears to have only been finalized today. She discovered her husband in bed with his secretary when she returned home early from a business trip. I suppose we have something in common, so perhaps we can exchange notes. She stated that she is a partner in a corporate legal firm. I believe she's relocating here to manage the new office, so perhaps she's going here to open. Might be able to help you get a reputable divorce lawyer. I'll ask her about that and see you tomorrow. I met Ethan and the following evening, Ethan wasn't joking when he mentioned his sister Olivia at a nearby Mexican restaurant. She was stunning. She kissed my cheek and gave me a hearty embrace. Wow, Olivia, what happened to that young kid with the bunches and braces? I grew up and became a woman, she added, laughing. You used to tease me about my braces. What do you think now? Olivia, I think you're one of the most gorgeous women I've ever met. I also shared with her Ethan had previously told her everything about the incident, and we decided that due to the investigation, this would Ethan did indicate that I could share the pictures and video, but I could only claim that a pie was used, which I did. When Emma returned from Milan, she intended to use her amicable disagreements to file for divorce. Olivia advised you to take preventative action. I know a fantastic family lawyer who will look after you well. One of the greatest and an expert in adultery divorces. I carry her card in my wallet. She put my ex-husband to the cleaners. We can start on Monday and get the hotel room later so that you can have Emma when she returns from Milan. Served, but I must admit that I was rather taken by Olivia. I was also curious as to whether she would go out with me. As dinner was coming to an end, Ethan's phone rang, so he left the table and returned, saying, I told him it was my treat, and Olivia and I finished our margaritas before he left. He offered to pay, however. Depart. She mentioned that it was a young night and asked if I knew of a place where we could dance. I replied that it wasn't far away. We danced, drank beer, and had a great time for the next 2 hours. If I had known we would get along so well, I would have progressed. We got along great, and I felt at ease and satisfied in her arms. We returned to the restaurant too. She asked me to accompany her to her hotel after I picked up her car, so she could give me the card from the attorney she was, suggesting that I followed her to her room, where she produced the card, handed me her bag, and gave me her cell phone. Call her tomorrow on her card to see if she can see you on Monday. I'll also call to let her know that she's doing well. Friend of mine, so I'm confident she'll make room for you. Thank you, Olivia. How can I ever pay you back? She said. She threw her arms around me and gave me a passionate kiss before falling onto the bed and making out as if nothing had happened. This went on for several minutes tomorrow before we both had to get up for air. Wow, Olivia, I've wanted to kiss you. James, you're really attractive and seductive, and ever since I first saw you, we've made out more, and our hands began. She touched my penis through my jeans as we were walking around, and I became really aroused. As my hand moved beneath her blouse and I played with her breasts, we paused once more, and I suggested that perhaps we should slow down. Olivia, please calm down a bit. I understand that your divorce recently became final, and I don't want to exploit you while you're weak. James, the first know what I'm doing, I'm probably taking advantage of you, but I'm also attracted to you. When I caught my husband with his secretary, I was so attracted to you. I finally figured it out. This is not my fault. I'm young. I look decent, and I think I'm sexy. He's the one who's to blame. I hope you don't think you're to blame for Emma leaving you. I did it first last night. I just kept thinking, did I cause all of this? Was I a bad husband? Could I not provide for my wife after being with you tonight? I realized it wasn't. I've been a good father, husband, and lover. I've provided for my wife in every way I can. We kissed some more, but mostly just cuddled on the bed. It felt really comforting being there with her. We woke up the next morning still in each other's arms. I invited her to come to my house for lunch and to go horseback riding. We had a great afternoon, and Olivia loved the horseback riding. Later that afternoon, we ended up on my couch where we got hot and heavy again, but it was still just a heavy make-out session. We decided we would continue to see each other and to see what happens. I took off work on Monday and met with Laura, the attorney Olivia recommended. I told her my story and gave her all the evidence I had. Laura seemed pretty disgusted with my wife's behavior and attitude. She's been practicing for 30 years, so I guess she has seen it all. She said we would file on grounds of adultery and abandonment. We would ask for the house, farm, and everything associated with it. We had 15. We had 0.00000 in our savings, which we would split. I would keep all the money in our current account. She was already making her car payment, and her credit card was in her name, so she would keep them in her name. I paid her car and health insurance. Laura told me to cancel both as soon as possible. Any credit cards that were in both our names would be canceled. Those were mostly gas cards with no balance. Laura pretty much had all my bases covered. She said we would only use the explicit sex photos and videos if necessary. Laura wanted to know when Emma would be back from Milan. I told her it was supposed to be Wednesday morning. I gave Laura the address that Emma had left me in case I needed to forward any mail. Laura said she would be served Wednesday morning. She's not going to like the adultery part, but I think she will agree to everything else. She seems satisfied with her new financial situation and seems to want the divorce as quickly as possible so she can marry Mr. Miller. Laura said I will let her know that I will change the adultery part if she will sign the papers. As I said, good idea, Laura. We just want her to know she did cheat on you. It was about 10 Just to confirm, the price is £30 morning on Wednesday morning. When my cell phone rang, I wasn't in a meeting, so I answered. It was Emma, and she seemed pretty upset. James, what the hell are these? Divorce papers I just got served. I thought we agreed that I would file the divorce. Emma, I didn't agree to anything. I'm just trying to give you what you want as quickly as possible. What's this adultery and abandonment? I don't think. You can accept this settlement. You'll soon be a rich man's wife. I'll change the adultery and abandonment too. Irreconcilable differences if you sign the settlement as is, and send me the revised copy if the lawyer says it's okay. I'll sign. I called Laura and told her about my conversation with Emma. She was right. She already had the new papers ready to be sent. I also know Em's lawyer. He's a corporate attorney with no experience in divorce. He'll probably just blow it off and tell her to sign. As it turned out, Laura was right again. Emma signed the papers, and they were back in Laura's office by Thursday afternoon. I stopped by and signed on my way home from work. In 60 days, which is when the divorce would be final, I called Olivia, and we agreed to meet for dinner near her new office. We had a wonderful supper and probably chatted for around 2 hours. We spent about 2 hours talking. She could tell I needed to talk about everything, and we decided to postpone on the affair for now and save up for Saturday night. That night, Emma called. She claimed she just wanted to check in and see if I was okay. I told her she couldn't use any pet names with me anymore. I'll survive. Emma, you injured this old cowboy pretty bad, but it doesn't matter now. You have what you want, and sadly, I wasn't what you wanted anymore. James, I'm sorry I hurt you. I still love you, and I want you to know I'll miss you. Yeah, whatever. Emma, I imagine you noticed in the settlement that I'll be canceling your car and health insurance. I'll wait until next Friday so you can arrange to get covered. Thanks, James. Don't worry. Thomas will take care of all that. I wasn't worried. I was just letting you know. Okay. I guess this is by James the First. Hope you don't think I'm a bad person for doing this. I simply had to do what I had to do. I love you, James. At this time, I started to tear because I know Emma could tell my final words were farewell. Emma, I hope you have a happy life with your new man. I hung up before she could say anything else. It was now time to start my new life too, and I had planned for Olivia to be a significant part of it. Olivia arrived at my house on Saturday night at 6 o'clock. She was gorgeous and seductive. Let me describe what I saw. She is approximately 5 feet 9 inches, and she has long golden hair, long shapely legs, and the most amazing physique I have ever seen. She looked like a goddess. She had those full shapely lips that I love to kiss. She was wearing this adorable little red dress that showed off her physique. It was short and revealed some cleavage, and my tool was already pressing against my jeans. We enjoyed a pleasant dinner on my deck, which looked out over my. We also had a lot of wine on the farm, and after 2 hours of flirting, eating, and talking, she eventually turned to face me and stated. I took her in my arms and brought her to my bedroom, saying, if you don't take me to bed soon, I'm going to blow up. Didn't take long to undress and begin having fun. Olivia and I spent the following weeks doing a lot of our time together. I invited her to move in, but she declined, saying she should wait until my divorce was finalized. Despite this, she spent a lot of nights in. About 5 days before to the finalization of my divorce, I received a call from Ethan, who said he clarified that they were almost prepared to destroy Thomas and his company. It had taken some time, but they had a lot of concrete proof that everything Thomas owned or had would be confiscated. He claimed to have witnesses against him and that he would spend a considerable amount of time behind bars. What about Emma? I demanded that Sheck be brought in for interrogation, but it appears that she is clean. She will likely struggle after losing her sugar daddy. When we're done, James, he won't have a pot to urinate in, so I suppose that's her issue. I would want to inform you, Ethan James, that my sister is really content with her relationship with you. She was rather depressed following her divorce. Is there a possibility that you could be my brother and Ethan? I hope so. I've fallen in love with your sister, and she loves you too, depending on whether she wants me or not. I'll notify you, James, when we move in on Thomas. Emma will probably phone you. It was Friday, and I was excited for my weekend with Olivia. It was also the day when Emma and I got divorced. I needed some beer for the weekend, so I stopped at a convenience shop on my way home from work. Can call to see what transpired next. Emma called me and wanted to meet me. I invited Olivia to join me for lunch, but she trusted me enough to know what it was about and declined. I had taken the entire week off from work to deal with it, and as soon as they found someone to replace me, I was going to step down. Emma and I met at a great restaurant downtown, but I couldn't make it because we were all busy moving. She had gained some weight, and to be honest, She didn't look well when I saw her. I'm sure the past few days have been, even though her name had been spoken a few times and it had been widely reported. As she entered, we saw some people looking and staring at her, and there were even rumors that she was Das' mistress. Choose to have a conversation at a table away from everyone in an open space outside. We began with some little talk, but she soon broke down in tears. James, I made the worst decision of my life by abandoning you. I'm not. I'm not going to do it again, but I wanted to let you know that a few weeks after I moved in, I became aware of Thomas's imprisonment. At first, it was enjoyable with him, but as the money grew stale, I wasn't content and felt like throwing up I thought that money was the only thing that counted, so I wasn't prepared for this when I had to have sex with him. Emma continued. Additionally, started to feel terrible about what I had done to you and Grace. Now, Grace seldom ever talks to me. You didn't. James, you were a nice spouse and a good provider for me, and I deserve that. Emma, thank you for providing me with everything I needed. I appreciate you saying that, but you did. James, I was happy with you, but you weren't really satisfied with me, so I let the old goat get. The night before he was jailed, I allowed him to woo me and then convinced me to dump you for him and all of his money. I kind of wanted to laugh, but he forced me to let him. He is a repulsive, perverted old man, and I hope he rots in prison. Emma looked up at me with tears in her eyes, but I had no idea where this was headed or what she wanted from me. I begged James to take me back because I adore you and I miss you terribly. Home, the farm, the horses, and all the things we used to do together. Emma, I'll do anything to make this right. Truly miss me? Or is this because you're flat, have no money, no house, and no job? Broke James and had nowhere to go, but I really do miss you and wish things would return to normal. James, I understand that this is a big decision, but I truly need you in my life right now. I'm at my wit's end and have no one else to turn to. I apologize, Emma, but I've met someone. Otherwise, we're in love and intend to tie the knot when the time is appropriate. We're not in a rush because Emma appeared to have been struck by a truck, and tears were flowing down her face. We had both been harmed by our spouses. She just sat there sobbing, and I felt bad for her. I guess she never thought that I would move on either. I know you were. Is there anything I can do to help you get back? You were considering retaliation when she left, but now you want to aid her. Emma stood up and looked up, saying, I don't blame you. I guess I was dreaming to even think you would take me back. Would you please find it in your heart to lend me a small amount of money till I find employment and a place of my own? I currently live with a friend, but I need to obtain a place of my own or something. How much do you need, Emma? You may lend me $6,000, and as soon as I find employment, I'll begin repaying you. When the waiters served our lunch when I got a job, Emma began to eat, but I wasn't really hungry, so I paused for a moment. As I watched her eat, I took my checkbook out of my pocket, wrote out a check, and gave it to her, folding it. Emma, I told you that this should help you start again because you're a wonderful secretary, and I know you'll be able to. I'm sorry things went this way. I hope to spend my old age with you. Find a job, and let me know if you need any support. Holding hands throughout Grace's wedding ceremony, observing our grandchildren during their first horseback ride, and I suppose it wasn't meant to be, being buried beside you on the farm. I got up and left the restaurant, leaving a 110 bill on the table to pay the bill and tip, and I looked back to see her seem shocked when she read the bill. She was still in disbelief that I had written her a check for you when I looked up and turned to face her. I grinned and walked away while she watched me. Olivia moved in when I got in my car off the deck, and the following spring, Ethan was the best man at our wedding, and Grace served as the maid of honor. Since they had grown close, we invited a few friends to our wedding in Vegas at the Mirage, and family to our honeymoon suite for the ceremony and reception. Everyone had a terrific time, and I won over 240. Emma was not invited to the wedding, but she read the announcement in the newspaper, so I suppose I've been unlucky in love and gambling. She did find a job and a place to live, according to the local media, but she never returned the money, which surprised me. I hope her relationship with the high school English teacher she is dating works out. Thomas Evans was found guilty of, due to federal crimes, he lost everything and will to spend a lot of money repaying the government for the money he stole. Thank you for watching. Perhaps he will find someone to exploit during his sentence in a federal jail. What would you do if When everything broke apart, your lover returned after leaving you for someone wealthy. Please remember to like and comment below. For more stories, hit the bell and subscribe.